welcome back to Built for Builds. It is raining today. We are on our way over to see a house, to look at a deck job. I got Todd behind me. I don't know if y'all can see out the window and all that, but yeah, we about to go over here and price the job. So I was like, you know what, let me tell a quick story while I'm on my way. And this is the story of the first house I flipped. And actually, it wasn't even supposed to be a flip. It was supposed to be a house that I was moving into. And the reason why I even bought it in the first place is because I had a different business at the time, and my accountant was saying that I was making too much money. So unless I wanted to pay a bunch of money in taxes, she was like, yo, just buy you a house, or, you know, like make some kind of investment. So I was like, all right, cool. So I ended up buying George Street, and it was a really cool looking house. Like it was really dope, as a matter of fact. For $25,000, I was really surprised that I ended up finding it. But it was like a real nice looking house. If you go on to my Instagram, which is Built for Builds, I'm not sure if it's there, but Built for Builds should have it. And what's my regular Instagram? Man, I haven't used it in so long. I think it's David Flip It Weems, but I'll put a link in the description. But anyway, it was a, you know, pretty cool house. So all I really needed to do as far as the outside goes is just give it a little, you know, new coat of paint, mess up some areas that had been weatherized. Like an older lady owned it. She was in a nursing home, so they were looking to like sell the houses and, you know, I guess to pay for her nursing home fees or whatever. All right, so after she had moved out and went to the nursing home, I think they were renting it out. One of the tenants caught the house on fire. So the whole first floor was already gutted, and the insurance company had paid out for the house already. So I got it for $25,000, which worked out really well. And I bought it, and I decided to do like a new floor plan, like, you know, take out a structural wall, open up the space, make it like a, you know, like an open concept type of house. And what is going on here? That is a strange traffic pattern. I'm never over on this side of town. I'm trying to like drive and tell stories and things and not wreck my truck at the same time. But all right, back to the story. So after I bought it, tore out a bunch of walls, opened it up, ended up in changing the whole downstairs, like gutted the whole thing, and then redid everything. So the house was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath when I bought it. By the time that I got done with it, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And that really helped out as far as the appraisal values go. So there was another house. It was, I think it was 533 James Street. That's 15145. And you guys can look it up now, but this is back in like 2013. I think that house, 533 James, had actually sold in 2011, and it sold for $155. So at the time, I really didn't know much about comp values, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm super successful with this business. I'm making all kinds of money. Like, I'm smart as hell for real, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't asking anybody any questions, no nothing. I was like, okay, I'm buying a house and I'm gonna be able to put a mortgage on it or flip it because, you know, I know the comp values in the area are 155. Now, mind you, I bought my house in 2013. 533 James Street sold in 2011. Any of y'all who are familiar with what it takes in order for a comp to be a comp, y'all know that a house that sold 2 years ago isn't a direct comp. The house has to have sold within a year of the time that you're trying to use that house for a comp value. And my house was a raised ranch. That house was like a modern contemporary or something like that. So it wasn't a direct comparable because they weren't both raised ranches. It was that, and then there was one other thing too. I mean, the time frame is really what made the biggest difference. Like, no house that sold 2 years ago is going to be able to be used as a comp for your house. So I buy the house, build it up, get it all up and running and everything. I mean, it turned out beautiful. It was my first time like doing floor plans or anything with the interior of a house. and like it turned out so well. Like the colors I chose, the way I chose to do like the floor plan, so you kind of flow from one room to the other, opening up hallways. So instead of it being a 36-inch hallway, it's like a 40-inch hallway, and like just a bunch of little things that I was doing just to make the house feel a little bit more new and modern. It all came out really well at the end of the project. So once the house was done, everybody's coming through, they checking it out. They're like, wow, this turned out really nice. I'm like, yeah, y'all right. I'm like unstoppable, man. I'm like the best real estate person out here, you know what I'm saying? And at the time, I wasn't even really doing work on houses. I had a lot of money, so I was paying, you know, to have guys come through and do work and this and that. So I was just really doing the design. I mean, I found the house, like everything but building the house I was responsible for on that project. All right, so when it comes time to have the realtors come through, my dad, he was actually in town from the Dominican Republic, and I remember him and my stepmom, they were both in town, and they were staying there with me that day. I had the first realtor come through. It was this black lady, right? I don't remember what her name was, but she is like, you know, if you're gonna sell this, you know, that house, that 533 James, that's not a direct comp for your house. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? It's like 2,000 square feet. Mine's is 2,000 square feet. It's 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Mine's is 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. I mean, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And she was like, well, yeah, but the house sold more than a year ago. So, you know, like that's not a comp. And if you look around to try to find any houses that are selling in Turtle Creek for over $100,000, you'll see that there aren't any this year. And I was like, man, she has no idea what she's talking about. So one of the most valuable things that she said to me, and mind you, like I spent like 2 years at this point getting this house put together. I mean, I was living in the house, so you know, instead of paying, I think I was paying like $1,200 or $1,400 a month in rent before I bought the house. But then you know, once I bought it, I kind of, you know, fixed up one floor and started living in the house as the rest of the construction was going on. So, you know, like it didn't really matter to me because essentially I was living for free. The house was paid off, but it did take me 2 years to finish it. So by the time that the realtors come through and, you know, she's telling me like, yo, you should sell this house for $115. I'm like, $115? I'm trying to sell this for $155, and it's actually looks a lot better than the house that did sell for $155. All right, so she was like, man, I understand what you're saying, and everyone thinks that the house that they own is worth so much more, but you know, like really, I think they might have said 85. I can't remember exactly what the number was, but I know it was so much lower than what I even had into the house. I think I had like, I bought it for 25. I put like another 35 into it. So what is that? 30 plus, that's like 60 grand. It took me to build the house. And then, you know, what you have, realtor fees. I think it was 85 she said it should go for. And I was like, yo, there's no way I'm selling the house for 85. Like, I would never do that. So she was like, well, you know, you can put it on the market at 155 and see what happens. But, you know, I'm telling you, it's not going to sell for that. Or even if you get a buyer, it's not going to appraise. So I was like, okay. And I guess she could kind of tell that I was like, man, this is some bullshit. And she is like, look, if you're flipping houses and this is what you're trying to do, then you know, go ahead and sell the house, and you know, just make sure you learn your lessons, and you know, you move on to the next project, take care of that. So finally I ended up coming across another realtor, and this realtor, Deborah Friedman, she was like, yo, there's no way the house is going to sell for 85. Like, this is a really nice house. You should just put it up for, you know, whatever you think you can get for it, and we'll see if the market can support it. So we put the house up for 155. And in the meantime, I found out that 533 James Street, that house sold for 155, but in reality, it was Habitat for Humanity. Or really it was Mon Valley Initiative, but it's kind of like Habitat for Humanity, where they'll take a house that's been abandoned and they'll build it up. And all right, here we go. they'll build the house up, and basically they sold it to the people who were in there for like, let's say like 120, and then it carried a $35,000 second mortgage that as long as they didn't default on the first mortgage, that second mortgage never matured. So they never had to pay any of the money for that second mortgage. Now, I had no idea that anything like this was happening, but essentially it meant that the house really wasn't worth 155. It was really only worth like 120, 130. And that's what ended up happening with that house. So after the time we got it appraised and everything came back, I think it came back at like 115, and I was still a little bit upset, but I was like, hey, for a first time flip, you know, I made some, you know, 5 figures on the deal. It was, you know, it was cool. But that was the main thing I realized, was that whenever you're going to do a project, you can't just go into it saying, oh, I know for sure in my heart of hearts that this thing's going to sell for X amount of dollars because so many years ago another house sold for this many dollars. One, that house may not have really sold for that. You know, like it might say that online, but unless you do some research into it, you know, you might be mistaken as to what it looks like happened and what actually did happen. And then the second biggest thing was, you gotta know your comps, you gotta know your areas. So, and you have to know how comps work. So basically, if you have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house and you're selling it, and you see another 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that is the same style house. So like, let's say you have a craftsman house that you're selling, and there's another craftsman house that has already sold within the last year. That can be a direct comparable to your house. Now, I don't know what the chances are that they completely redid their house, or that your guys' houses are in the same, I guess, like the same range as far as like how nice they are or what amenities they have. But you can get a much better idea of what's going on whenever you just look at the areas, I mean the price range of the area. So now whenever I'm looking at houses, like let's say in Brighton Heights where I'm working at now, I'll just look at how much the houses are selling for, and I'm like, okay, this house sold for 270, this house sold for 280, this house sold for 260. And you'll have a range of different houses inside there. As long as I know that I built my house to fit in that range, I haven't been disappointed yet. But whenever you just take one single house and you're like, okay, there's nothing else around here that's selling for this price range. The only other houses selling, I think in Turtle Creek, there was like $30,000 houses, $40,000 houses. And then there was this one house that sold for $155. And I decided to use that for my comp value. Didn't work out so well. So just wanted to pop in, share a little bit of information with you guys, and good luck with any of your real estate or construction goals. Catch y'all in the next episode.